everybody. Welcome to today's What's New webinar. We've had one update since the last webinar of this type, 1.130, so that's what we're going to focus on today. We'll talk about what Onshape does in its update process every 3 weeks. Then we'll go through each of the new features, and then it will wrap up by talking about the changelog, and resources for help, and open it up to questions. You can ask questions at any time during this presentation. So you'll see the highlights from 130. We have the full round fillet. We have drawing improvements, several of those that we'll go through. Detail panel improvements. Also, the export rules have been expanded to include a few more things than it did when we originally released it. We also added enterprise aliases, some good mobile improvements, and also a new training course that you can look at in the Learning Center. So let's get started. So first off, Onshape does an update every 3 weeks. These updates are going to be automatic and transparent for everybody. You're always going to be on the latest. There's no need to explicitly choose to upgrade inside of Onshape. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about today is the full round fillet, and I'm going to go through each one of these, and I'll also demo them. So I'll talk about them a little bit in the presentation, and then I will demo them live for you. So the full round fillet basically allows you to select 2 sides and a top, and it will fully round that out for you. So I have a couple examples where I've rounded the top here and the inside here. This is the same kind of model right here, but I just haven't done the full round fillets yet. So let me just roll this back to a good spot, and we can add some full round fillets. The full round fillet is going to be available to you in the same location as the regular fillet tool. There's just now 2 options up here at the top. You can choose just the regular fillet that you've had before, or the full round. There are 3 inputs for the full round fillet. You have your first side face, your second side face, and the top face that you would like to round out. And it'll automatically calculate how large the fillet needs to be to fill in that whole area. So we can do it in that kind of situation. We can also do it in a concave type of situation. So add in the first side face, the second, and the rounded face. Pretty straightforward. A common application of this would be in molded parts where you have ribs perhaps on them. So I can show you again with that one. And you'll have to do, in this case, they would each be done individually. So we'll select the second and then the top. And the full round fillet is able to handle situations where the distance or the width of the top face is changing with no issues at all. So just to show that, pretty straightforward. So very simple, but very powerful new tool that we have available, highly requested feature. So then the next one that I want to talk about is there's been a series of drawing improvements. We've been doing a lot with drawings over the last few releases, and we're continuing to try to improve that tool as much as possible. One of the updates is that there is now a default value for view simplification. Many people asked for this capability because the default was that it would just automatically simplify, and some people wanted to have more control. I would be very careful with this option as it can have performance implications. So unless you truly need to change that option, then I would not do that. Additionally, in most views, we do have the ability to show hide sketches. Previously, we did not have it available in a detail view, but now we do have the ability to show or hide sketches in details. And then also we've added a few more date formats to the choices inside of a drawing. I have a drawing up over here. And so you can see I have already shown a sketch in my detail view. You can show a sketch in a view by just right clicking on it and choosing the option to show or hide sketches. And you can select which sketch you would like to show. And I'm just showing this one right here. So that's pretty straightforward. It's something that we've had with views for a while. It's just we didn't have it available in a detail view. That default option that we talked about is over here in the drawing properties, and then it is under the view section. So if we go to the view section, there is on the insert view defaults, this is view simplification, full descriptions of what each of these options means is inside of the help if you're curious, but you have absolute, ratio to studio, ratio to part, and automatic. So basically, if it gets below a certain threshold, it would simplify it, which is not ideal for certain situations where you need to have a lot of detail. So you can, the way you choose what the threshold would be with these three options, or not at all if you don't want to. And then the date formats is just any kind of date format field. You can choose how you wish to display it. So we already had a bunch of them here and we added a few new ones available to you. So that's it with drawings. Some pretty straightforward but good improvements. We've also improved the details panel, and I just have a GIF here. It's a very simple thing. Before, we used to have links at the bottom to open the document in a new browser tab or to copy the link to a clipboard. They used to show below the thumbnail. Now they are a part of that title at the top. So that's the only difference there. So same functionality, just a different way to get to it. This is one of the bigger changes. So a couple releases ago, we introduced export rules. We've added more export rules to Onshape in that you can link to the Part Studio properties when exporting. You can also trigger the export rules by exporting out of face or a flat pattern. And also, if you are on Pro or Enterprise, you can reference models in the drawing. So when you're exporting out a drawing, you can use the model reference properties. So just to show you where to access these and how to do it, you can access them. You can do export rules under your account. Recently, we also created company-wide export rules. I'm in an enterprise for this session because I also have some enterprise things to show you guys today, but it is also available in Pro and Standard. So in Standard, you would just do it under yourself, under your account, and then if you're on Pro, you would do the the company settings is what it would show as. But since I'm in an enterprise, it's going to show as enterprise settings. But it's going to work much the same. And so if I go into preferences and scroll down, there are enterprise-wide export rules. So if you're in a Pro, it would show as just company-wide export rules. And you can add in different rules. So this is something that's existed for a little while, but today the difference is with the newest release is that we have options for a few more rules. So every time you create a rule, you're going to preface it with a $sign and then put in curly braces the thing that you're wanting to link to, and it will try to auto populate for you. And sorry, it keeps accepting it for some reason. So let's try that again. So if I do this and I just start typing maybe description in, you can see that it's trying to auto complete it. So you'll notice some new prefixes we have. So if you're linking to the item in question or the element in question, like if you're exporting a part and you want the part properties, or you're exporting a drawing and you want the drawing properties, there's no prefix that you need to add. But if you are exporting a part and you want to link to the Part Studio properties, then you would preface it with part studio. And you'll notice that everything is camel case. So you can see the part is lowercase, and then any additional word added onto it would be in uppercase. So part is lowercase, but studio is uppercase, and then dot description. So that's one that we have for the new part studio option. If you're exporting out a drawing, you can use reference dot and then the name of the item. So if it's the name or the description or any other type of property, so you just do reference dot, but it won't show if you don't have the scope set correctly, okay? So I already have a part one. Let's edit this and change it. Let's put in the part studio name, and then we'll put in the description of the actual part. And we'll save that. And then let's do one that will go with the drawings. So I'll add in a new export rule and choose drawing and set our things. We're going to do it for all formats. And here we can put reference dot name and description. So this would point to the actual drawing description, and this would point to the model name, so the reference model. So to test that out, I have a bracket that I've created, very simple bracket. If we look into the properties, you can see I've filled in some of the information. And if I right click on the studio and or right click on the part and choose export, you can see that it grabbed the name of the studio, which is bracket studio, and then it grabbed the description of the part. So it's linking to both the overarching studio as well as the reference component that we're exporting. So that's pretty straightforward. You can see what I entered as my rule up here. And you can always override this and fill in your own information, but this is just a rule to get it formatted in a more consistent manner. So if I go into the drawing and I choose to export that, you can see that the rule is grabbing the reference name, which is just bracket, so that's the part, and the description of the actual drawing, so it's the bracket drawing. If you are unsure how to get the reference set correctly on a drawing, you can just go to the sheet properties, or those sheet properties, and you would pick the reference here. And that's how you can get the correct reference set. So it would just be, you can pick whatever view if you have multiple parts or assemblies all in the same drawing. So again, this part is already existing. We've just added a few more capabilities. Also, if I go to the sheet metal flat pattern to export out the flat pattern, it's going to trigger the rule, which it actually didn't do before. So this is a new thing as well. And if I right clicked on a face, it would do the same thing if I wanted to export a face. The only thing with flat patterns is it will add flat pattern of in addition to the rule, but you do execute the rule. So someone had a question. Is there a date feature that you could use in the export convention? So let's go back over to the preferences and take a look at one of these rules. So you can link it to a property. So there's some default properties, date approved, date drawn, and drawn by. It looks like you can also get the last changed date as well. So there are a few different things available to you. If you just start typing in date, you can see both your custom properties as well as some built-in properties that are available to you. So that is export rules and the changes therein. And then the next thing we have is enterprise aliases. So this one only applies to enterprise subscription level, and it also is a little bit different than things we've had in the past. So you could, when you're creating a release candidate, apply a whole team as an approver. You could also apply an entire role if you have it inside of a project. And now we have aliases. And the difference between aliases, teams, and roles is that when I add an alias as my approver, it's more like a shortcut. What it does is it takes that alias and it becomes all the people that are in it. So then you could choose who you want to keep and who you want to get rid of. Whereas if you choose to assign the engineering team as an approver, the whole team will get added and they will not, you will not be able to just remove people from the notification list. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So from the administrative standpoint, we have a new item here called aliases, and you can set up an alias very similar to Teams. So I could just create an alias and call it the engineering alias. And you can put in an optional description and save that. And then once you have that created, you just add members. So this is truly identical to a team setup at this point. Okay, so the setup is very similar to Teams. And then when I am releasing something, that is where it becomes a little bit different. So I'll go into my version and history and create a release candidate. So here, for approvers, if I choose a group, you'll see that it adds, or a team, it'll add the entire team to the approvers list. I can't change who's in there. But if I choose an alias, and an alias will be identified with this little arrow, like a shortcut arrow, select that, and it actually adds the individual people. So I can get rid of the ones that I don't want. Okay. And that's really the only difference between an alias and a team, but it just gives you a little bit more flexibility inside of an enterprise. And those are only available for enterprises at this time. Mobile improvements. So a couple big improvements, things that we already have in our web browser are now brought to the mobile device. So Android now has the ability to change your assembly configuration. So at the very top of the feature list, you will have the configurations panel that you can edit things from. And then also in Android and iOS, where used is now available. It is pretty straightforward. You can right click on a part inside of an assembly. You can right click on a tab, or not right click, but select and then pick from the menu, because there's no right clicking in, in a mobile device. You can also bring up where used in the details pane on the right when you are navigating inside of your documents panel. So in all the places you're used to seeing where used, you will be able to use it. And this is again for enterprise users. Where used is something we do want to roll out for everyone, but at this time it is only available for enterprise. But now it's available in mobile devices. And then we also have a new training course. We have partnered with OnScale to release a training course on basic OnScale simulation fundamentals. So I recommend everybody check that out, see if they're interested in, if you're interested in simulation at all, it's a valuable course. It's just right there in the Learning Center. If you don't have time to copy down this link, I just go into the Learning Center and type in OnScale and it'll be the first thing that comes up. So if you want to view the entire change log for 130, I have it present here, but you just go to onshape.com/changelog and that will bring you to the full change log. Today we have, I've presented the highlights, the things that affect everyone. Some things are more behind the scenes, so we don't really present them during this, but you can get a full list of what has changed from version to version by going to the changelog. Also, don't forget up by your name in the top right of Onshape, there is the question mark menu, and in there you can get to the Learning Center. There's also a separate Learning Center button, but you can also get to the what's new from there. You can also contact support if you have questions or issues with any of your documents. And that wraps it up.
Thanks for watching. Click the logo to subscribe or see some of our other videos linked here.